when I was in India. And one afternoon I went down to speak in the southern part of India in a school that was attended by and large by young boys and girls who were the children of former untouchables. And I remember that afternoon that the principal got up to introduce me. And as he came to the end of his introduction, he said, "I would like to present to you a fellow untouchable from the United States of America." And for the moment I was peeved, I was shocked that I would be introduced as an untouchable. But pretty soon my mind ran back across to America. And I started thinking about the fact that there were so many places that I couldn't go because of the color of my skin. I started thinking about the fact that my 20 million brothers and sisters in the Negro community of America are still at the bottom of the economic ladder, deprived of adequate housing conditions, unable to live in numerous neighborhoods because of the color of their skin. I started thinking about the fact that my little children were still judged on the basis of the color of their skin rather than the content of their character. And I had to say to myself, I am an untouchable, and every Negro in the United States is an untouchable. And segregation is evil and sinful because it stigmatizes the segregated as an untouchable in a caste system. And this is why I'm convinced that we have a moral edict, a moral mandate to work to get rid of this unjust and evil system. And we must make it clear all over America that we are through with segregation now, henceforth, and forevermore, if the American dream is to be a reality.
There's a black storm coming, see the lightning strike, black people rising.
Welcome back to part 4 of our discussion on the book by Isabel Wilkerson called Caste. For those of you who might be new to the show, we are an African-centered talk show titled the Umoja Circle, or the Unity Circle. The purpose of the Umoja Circle is to correct errors where errors are found and to introduce facts where we find that so many people are working on fiction when it comes to who we are as African Americans in this country, and how our reality is totally different than the dominant group or the caste that created this system. Like you saw in that video that you might not have heard anything like that, Martin Luther King, because that's not being shown in the everyday media. That's why we established this show. This is the 20th year of this show, and we speak our cultural truth. You know, we don't try to harm anybody or anything like that. We just say this is the truth. Until there's the old saying that the truth shall set you free, and that's what we do here at the Umoja Circle. One of the things that we must understand that you cannot solve any problem found on this earth. We left off the last show unless you first understand the history of that problem. Okay, if you want to fix the problem that we are bringing forth, then we have to understand the precedent, what came before. And that's what we do here on the Umoja Circle. When we study, like in the last show, I say that my study of our history that includes the American history, which is also black history, I have to go back and we talk about our ancestors. And I find my ancestors through the books that I study and bring forth to the show. So the brother Williams, he does that same thing. That's why we work so well together. That the ancestors speak to us. We go back in time, read the books, study what they said, and then we bring it forth and have these discussions. And through these discussions, we bring about the changes. When Brother Williams were near the end of the show, he brought about the concept of the caste system and how they started justifying the enslavement. We had another video at the beginning of the third portion of this show, this dialogue that showed the genesis of what we call racism today. Racism is not, it's a system. It's a group dynamic. It's never, you cannot call an individual a racist unless they're part of the group dynamic that has the power of a racist system behind them. So when you call a black person a racist, what power did we have in the last 400 years in America? Mm-hmm. Where did we control the educational system? Where did we control the jurisdiction, the justice system? When did we control the housing market? When did we control any of those systems? Were controlled by the same group of people who once enslaved us. And even the laws that free us, we still had, in 1865, we were told that we were no longer enslaved. 246 years after a horrific system, okay, that we were treated as untouchables when Dr. Martin Luther King discovered when he was introduced in that high school. That's the emphasis of that video. The high school that he went when he went to in 1959 to India, and he asked to see some untouchables, and the principal of the school in southern India introduced him as one of us. The principal was also an untouchable. And when he introduced Dr. Martin Luther King, he was introduced as being one of them, an untouchable. And it shocked him. But he realized when he came back home, and you understand when he spoke in that video, he was speaking in 1965 or 1966, but that's when he started changing his perspective from that peaceful movement to telling Harry Belafonte, who said, he told him, I think I might have sent my people into a burning house. Yes. But so let's go where we left off. Brother Derek was giving a great demonstration of some of the things that perpetuate the images that the mythology of who we are based on the caste system that was established from the 1500s and the 1600s and so on.
Yes, and reflecting at our previous program, I had introduced some initial cards, and the cards were postcards that people in this country could purchase in a store, a 5 and 10 cent store, any kind of store you went into to get writing material, send home to your mother, your father, your friends, postcards. And these postcards depicted, of course, blacks in various negative, stereotypical, not only positions, but concepts around African Americans in this country. Mm-hmm. And so last week I was talking about the watermelon postcards. What you see now is a series of postcards, and you begin to see the sexual connotation that is being projected. Now, keep in mind, these are postcards that the United States postal system sanctioned. You had a stamp on it, you send it through. It was not only a form of communicating to whomever you want to communicate to, but it carried a hidden message that cemented the racist, the caste system aspect of African Americans. So often when you see certain stereotypes being projected today and you see a pushback, you understand that it's part of that continuation of maintaining a certain negative imagery. And so the card that you're looking at here, again, like I said, we're beginning to look at some of the social aspects of the stereotypes. This one here says, we'll fry my hide. I'm having chicken for breakfast. And of course, you see a person that's supposed to be depicting someone black with large lips, nose, looking at a white woman, and you can see her breasts being projected out of the pot. And then you wonder why this sexuality aspect of others, upper caste people, who continue to, integrate this into the depiction of blacks.
And I want to make a point on that card there. When you see something like that, if you're a man from the Gilded Age or the Victorian Age, or you're told and you're seeing stories of Ivanhoe and knights in shining armor from Europe, and the outrage of protecting your females in this country, even though our females are the ones who were unprotected and raped and slaughtered, Sally Hemings,
yes,
and
yes.
all the kind of thing that's going on by the dominant caste,
yes.
but who controls the law. What would you do to somebody like that if you were a white person, the great hunter? You would have lynched him.
Absolutely.
You would lynch him, and that's the image that they see. In fact, when Michael Brown was murdered a couple of months ago, years ago, and the young brother, 18-year-old, Big Brother.
Yes.
When the grand jury was in session and the police officer that shot him said, when he saw that big black he's an 18-year-old child, okay, unarmed.
Yes.
Left on the street like
yes.
a dog for hours before his body was removed, he said he saw a demon.
Yes.
That image is
yes.
ingrained in the psyche of white America.
It's immortalized.
And I wanted to bring that point.
Yes.
That's the psyche. That's the fear.
Yes.
Of to justify the kind of relationship we've had here when it comes to race in America.
And again, you begin to see the caste system being informed and then maintained through this kind of imagery. Of course, some of these are just extreme in their depiction. This one here is a depiction of a black woman, again, with extreme lips and
the darker skin.
The darker skin. It's again, but you see where here, from an intellectual standpoint, if you were to analyze this statement, I was asking you, is I got sex repeal or is I? Not only a mockery of the language, but again, we see the introduction of sex and how sex is always an undercurrent in the dialogue in talking about
brother, when you see images like that over and over and over again, you can move to the next card while I'm talking. I just want to bring the point out. When you talk about the generation that had to exist as black men and women who had no rights during the 1800s or the early 1900s. These cards
some
around
are 1960s, 65.
Oh, that's even in the 60s?
Yeah.
Oh, my
many
goodness. So that's within our lifetime. How could you, we absorb that, we internalize that trauma.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And if you are a 12-year-old or 8-year-old or 9-year-old child in the 60s,
yes.
and you see stuff like that, you're going to hate that image.
Yes.
And you're going to see that same image in your mirror,
yes.
and you don't have no counter explanation about like what we're talking about.
Or anyone intervening and saying that's not true.
Yeah.
And so as you laugh, you also learn how to behave, okay? And you get your stereotypes that continue. This one here is a little painful.
Child.
I'm a grandfather, and I have a number of children, and this is a child who basically is saying that they're starving for, love, honey. Okay, look at the word, kiss me, honey, I starving. And as you can see, this is a baby. This is a child. So even at a very early age, they're overly sex, okay? And you see that projected today in modern video.
Thank you. The gyrations.
Movies.
Yeah.
Yes. It's again. You wonder where it comes from. Again, this is a series This one here, of course, is showing.
upside down.
Whoops.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. I ain't worried about no sugar. I's got my sweets. And two, naked little bodies there.
Which influence of black males or project the black males again as this thing that you need to protect your females from if you're a part of that caste.
Absolutely.
That's why a cop will be over aggressive to a young black boy driving a vehicle, because that kind of imagery is implanted psychologically into their psyche.
And if you think about the Tulsa, Oklahoma riot, the whole foundation of that came out of the lie of a white woman being assaulted by a black male.
She was just going into the elevator where there was a black boy who was going up into an elevator, and she was coming out of the elevator,
right.
and she's shocked.
Yes.
And from that story, they came up with this story about her being raped or attacked because of her visceral response to his black skin.
Excellent.
Going into that. So we got to understand the context. And with that, what happened? They destroyed a whole prosperous neighborhood.
And hundreds of people died.
And got bombed.
Yes. Two loving hearts, okay.
With their rear end showing, right?
Yes. And I'm not going to comment on all of them, but again, I'm trying to show you some of the imagery, even today, the comments that you hear. Okay. And again, you can see the introduction of the sexual nature. Here's one that, and I'm going to leave that and show this one here. At first, it looks very innocent. This is a depiction, a picture of a black granddaughter, probably supposed to be asking her grandfather for some instruction or to help figure out a problem. And of course, the caption is, grandpa being embarrassed. Okay, first you deny me an opportunity to get an education, and then you develop a mockery out of my lack of formal education, and you make a postcard out of that. And there's humor in that. There should be total sadness and tears and weeping, but you can see the casualness of how you can take a particular behavior or creative behavior and the concept behind it.
And not understanding that when black people were freed, the so-called freed, by the 13th Amendment and the 14th Amendment, and given the rights to vote. I do these quotation marks because those things written on paper were not the reality from our perspective. But we were always one of the most powerful thing about black people when you study that history is we were about education.
Yes.
We were about public schools were started because of black demand during the Reconstruction to be educated.
Yes. And of course, education is part of the freedom of the mind.
Exactly.
And so, again, you can see how even such an important developmental aspect being an issue of mockery. This one here, I'm going to have to read to you. You got a little bit of
Clear.
I had protected it because some of the cards are very old. I'm going to take this off here, and maybe we can get and then I'll read. That was a newspaper article, and I'm going to read that for you. That was actually in the newspaper, and it shows a black woman knitting and the children at her feet while they're interacting. And let me read to you what is being said. Okay, now I'll put it back down. Okay. Progress of knowledge in Aunt Shallow's family. Sambo, okay, this is one of the children's name, I guess. Say, Auntie, them newspaper folk has discovered Africa. Aunt Chili, you don't say so, child. Now, if you hadn't heard or read that, we never should have known nothing about it. So the motherland, the fatherland, the origin of people of black ancestry being a issue of mockery so much has been taken from the minds of these children that the implication is that had you not read it in the newspaper, you wouldn't even known about a place that millions and millions and the original people come from.
This mockery,
Okay.
man, again, I speak to the ancestors through the books and the history books that I read. The founder of Black History Month, Carter G. Woodson, anybody read his biography? His parents were enslaved people. His sisters, brothers, their uncles fought in the Civil War. We did not speak like that, but that's how we were portrayed to justify the condition of enslavement and the condition of segregation. Again, the system of the dominant group caste, which is white America, had to maintain mythology to justify their history when it came to their interaction with people of African descent. This lie had to be perpetuated. But what I want to bring a point about it, Carter G. Woodson was the second man to graduate at Harvard. Brilliant brother, okay? He went all over the world establishing schools, all right? This brother was taught by his uncles who became teachers after the Civil War, okay? Now, he worked in the mines from the age of 17 in West Virginia to the time he was 19 years old, all right? And one of the things that was recognized, you had some brothers who were miners with him, ex-Union soldiers, okay, who could barely read.
Oh, yes.
But they recognized in this young brother something special.
Yes.
And it was another brother, I can't remember his name, but he had a little house there in West Virginia, and he would invite and pay him a few dollars where they would gather, young brothers, all the brothers, and they would have him read all the newspapers, all the magazines. I mean, I talk about the Journal, the Wall Street Journal, the New York, whatever, Tribune, all these pictures, and they would discuss the stuff that's going on. Okay, is that the image that was being portrayed in those cards that you're talking about?
That's right. That's an excellent
what we
point.
have to change our way of thinking of who we are,
That's
because
an
it affects
excellent
our
point.
children today.
Yes.
Those who don't like their black skin, or Michael Jackson changing to the dominant group's look. When you see the image of what he looked like when he was young, he was a handsome brother with the same nose, afro, and then all of a sudden he got vitiligo or something like that, supposedly, that covered his whole skin. They're bleaching themselves in Africa in certain places. So this thing still goes on.
It still
goes on now, and we got to stop it.
And that's where when you talk about the importance of the past, because the past is just a blink of the moment. You know, tomorrow never comes. You wake up and today is here.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a couple others, and I'm going to curtail on some of the bestiality cards that I have here. But this card here, I want you to see the routine nature of it. This is a card that if you stopped at a hotel and you wanted your room clean, you would use this card to hang on your doorknob. It says, "Yes, sir." It'll be made up for you gets back. And then, of course, as you look at the flip side, it says, "Guest desiring early maid service. Please hang this on the back of your doorknob." And so again, this angers me because of the routine nature of how it's integrated to maintain this caste order that we talked about.
That still exists today.
Here you take imagery and you depict it in a negative sense and make it part of the hotel's marketing.
Part of the society.
It's just, and then you wonder, you ask the question, what happened to black folk? What's
wrong with us?
Well, folk shaped and made sure that you saw black folk a certain way, and then depicted in seemingly innocent devices of your normal day-to-day living. And so, again, when you talk about the caste system, that's why I made a comment about it can't be looked at as totally from a racial standpoint. Here is a form that was used, of course, by the military You know, and
Wow,
this
Uncle
is extremely humorous for me because, you know, I spent 20 years in the military.
I did 24.
And you can see where it was an integrated part. Again, we talk about the systems.
The systems,
okay?
exactly.
Military system is a very large part of American system. And so imagine fighting for so-called freedom. And
in
then,
other lands, too.
Yes.
World War I, World War II, for
Absolutely.
their freedom. And we come home to this.
Until Truman signed, you know, the executive order, and these forms were used even after integration. You know, they had to be pulled because of the continuance of segregating the military. This is one of my specials here because there's always a history behind Little Black Sambo. And what happened is that there was an effort to kind of make this okay.
They lighten them up, huh?
Little, you know, 10 little Indians used to be 10 little niggers.
And the N-word,
okay,
exactly.
This was cleaned up a little bit, but the message is still there.
Subliminal message, exactly. We're not stupid people.
You know, I mean, it's. But again, you can see where the caste system, why the caste system is so rigid, because it's concrete. It's cemented.
I want to bring this book up real quick. Because before you go on, I want people to think that we were accepting this kind of crap during those periods of time. Even to this day, we always fought back. One of the reasons that the upper caste people always felt afraid and fearful is because they understood, and the people who were under that caste or outcasts, as the black people was, according to Martin Luther King and Isabel Wilkerson's book, we fought back. Here's a book that many of you might never heard of. Okay, it's called We Will Shoot Back. In other words, we were always reactionary to that kind of system produces a reactionary system. When we talk about Malcolm, or when people talk about the Honorable Minister Farrakhan or brothers like that, they always tell them that they're racist, which is another nonsense. No, these brothers and sisters that came out, Marcus Garvey, all the great black leaders, we were reactionary. You had to react to this system that he's telling you about. Yes. We couldn't accept that as black men. Yeah. We're talking about Mississippi. You see how thick this book is? This is just some of the incidents where we did not take that. We didn't allow that Black Wall Street to happen. These were soldiers from World War I. You know, who went to defend that black boy who was put in jail in Tulsa. We were brothers and sisters after World War II who came back and demanded that we change the laws.
Yes.
So I wanted people to understand that black people, contrary to that image, fought back.
Yes. And so we want you to know that these cards are just another opportunity for us to show you how integrated, this caste system has been in our society. And the last one, of course, is a flyer that I went to a motorcycle rally when I used to ride a bike. And upon entering, this is the signage that was there at the rally. So again, our society is replete with this imagery, whether or not it's in the electronic media, cards, books, and then you wonder why we need to study our history.
If you want to understand that what we say about two Americas, look up the Kerner Commission. It said that we are heading for two Americans, one black, one white, one separate but unequal. So peace, hotep, bye-bye.